I have very few waking memories of the past month or so, given that I fell violently ill after having fully healed from a fatal blow to my chest. I'll elaborate on that a bit later, but for now, all I can say is that far worse were the nightmares that had accompanied it. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but what can I say? I've had a lot going on for someone who's spent weeks on bed rest. I should have taken my earliest memory of this time as the omen that it was. Given my injury, hand-to-hand training had been taken out of my usual regiment for the day in lieu of a more acute focus on firearms. The shooting range is a small room attached to the gymnasium, separated from the rest of it for obvious reasons. However, even several feet of reinforced steel couldn't drown out the bestial bellows I heard coming from the other side. I promptly entered the gymnasium to find Ivar going full Apocalypse Now on a bull ox in the middle of the sparring ring. I had arrived at the very moment that Ivar cleaved the thing's head off with a single swing of a massive battle axe. "Morning, Cullen," he said casually as he began to trace patterns on his chest and throat with the ox's blood. "Oh, my apologies," he continued with a chuckle, gesturing to the trace amount of blood that had made its way to my shirt. "Was just paying seasonal obeisance to the god of war." "Is that right?" I asked. "Which one?" "The very same you now serve," he said with a grin. "From your initiation hence." Not really knowing what to say to that, I just left him to it and returned to my room, since I was already somewhat nauseous. I knew well enough by then not to disregard what Ivar had said, however. He didn't say much, typically reserving speech for jokes and truisms. Had I unknowingly made some sort of binding pact with some kind of devil when I took the Cronenberg serum? Or was Ivar just trying to psych me out again? You're probably saying to yourself, why didn't you ask him? Because, in all likelihood, you don't know Ivar. Of anyone on this team, he is far and away the most prolific prankster. Though his jokes tend to be a lot less subtle, like the one time he replaced everyone's shampoo with deer urine, or the time he just threw a fucking hornet's nest at my head at the end of a training day once. The point is, if he's just joking around about my being bound in service to some strange god, I don't really stand to gain from just asking him. Plus, it's sort of a moot point regardless, because the nausea from earlier that day had greatly intensified on the walk back to my quarters. After expelling many gouts of vomit into the sink, I retreated finally to slumber. I awoke on the rough ground of a thick forest, surrounded by frightened men I didn't know. They wore what appeared to be leather-bound chainmail, carrying strange barbed spears. "Where the hell am I?" I asked, sitting up from the earth. "Satanta, thank fuck you're awake," one of the men said. "We were sure we had lost you when you fell over like that. Is everything alright?" another asked. "Wait, what?" I replied. "Who the fuck is Satanta? Where am I?" Some responded to my query with nervous chuckles, others with more overt expressions of concern, until an older man interjected, immediately silencing the rest of us. "We haven't the time to discern whatever the gods have chosen to do with the boy's mind this time." The old man spoke with a calm resonance, donned in a green robe with gold trim, accompanied by a red sash. "For now, we should keep him abreast of our current situation." The men nodded meekly in agreement before the old man turned his attention to me. "Obviously, I can't be sure of how much you recall, but at present we have been set to the task of tracking down the Hound." The confusion on my face must have clued him into the need for further elaboration. "Kroger's Hound. He dispatched us to retrieve it after it got loose." "None of this makes any sense," I said. "Where are Duncan and the others?" Though the faces of my new companions betrayed a confusion that likely mirrored my own, I wasn't going to take any chances. Alright. You assholes better make with the answers, I said, drawing the sword I had attached to my hip. Wait, how did I know that was there? The other men took frightened, staggered steps away from me, while the old man remained in his place, resolute as ever. I take it you must be the leader, then. He didn't reply. You have about 10 seconds to tell me where we are, who you work for, and why you kidnapped me before I waste every last fucking one of you. Well, it's good to see you're acting a bit more like yourself, Satanta, the old man said. Concerning your queries, in the order which you had asked them, we are currently deep in the forests of Cullen. The other men are a detachment of Krochar's soldiers, and I am his court druid, Cathbad. For the third, I have no satisfactory answer, for you were not taken here against your will. In fact, until you fell and rose again, you yourself were leading this mission. Before I could respond to any of that, I heard a low, resonant growl in the distance, and saw that the men had turned their attention to Cathbad and myself. Perhaps we should turn back, Cathbad, one of the men said. Satanta doesn't seem ready to meet the challenge. If the mission hinges solely on Satanta's readiness, what was the point of us coming in the first place? Another responded. Doubtless you hold the same standard when it comes to the pleasing of your wife at this juncture. Hey, I interjected, addressing the group. This whole thing is your circus. Catch this guy's dog, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna try to find my way home. At that moment, one of the soldiers swiftly disappeared with the passing of a black flash that had shot by the rest of us in his direction, too quickly for him even to scream. It doesn't appear that any of us have a choice any longer, said Cathbad, as he withdrew a sword from his robe. Upon getting a closer look at the creature after turning to face it, the first thing I took note of was its impressive size. I'm not kidding. The thing was the size of a fucking shuttle bus. Based on the absence of any sign of its victim, I surmised that it must have swallowed him whole. Its hindquarters sported cloven hooves, which I observed it use to cave in the skull of another man at breakneck speed as we made our advance towards it. The hound's forelimbs looked like those you might find on a silverback gorilla, if said silverback gorilla had massive talons at the end of each of its 4 diametrically opposable appendages. Before I could get close, I observed it grip one of the men's spears before swiftly impaling him on it. Finally, when I managed to get within range of the hound, I swung my sword in an upward diagonal fashion in order to behead it. Of course, the sword broke upon impact with the creature's neck. Before anything further could be done, the hound sought to return the favor, lunging at my throat with its massive fangs, which broke upon impact, leaving me fully unscathed. The hound appeared to comprehend the situation about as swiftly as I did, because it made the smart choice to run. Unfortunately for the hound, I was a bit faster. In my pursuit, I managed to leap ahead of it and shoulder check it into a nearby boulder. As the hound lay prone, I stomped its head with rapid succession, until nothing remained but a dark red smear in a newly formed crater. Holy shit, I thought to myself. Was this the true power of the Cronenberg serum? Wait a minute. We were supposed to catch this thing and bring it back, weren't we? Fuck. Whoever this Krochar guy was, he was gonna be pissed. As soon as I began to wonder about that, I found myself awake, once more, in my living quarters at home base. What the hell was that? A nightmare? A memory? Fuck if I cared at that moment, given that my lungs had just then felt like they were full of lead.